Ah,
What?
we have a visitor, Beena.
Okay.
We
Okay.
have a visitor. We have a visitor.
Ah,
We have a visitor. Brilliant. 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 Brilliant.
uh,
Ah, fantastic. Fantastic. Hello. 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 Brilliant. Brilliant. Brilliant.
All
You say
right.
your name is Jocelyn? Yes?
Yeah, hi, how you doing?
Ah, most excellent. Thank you. Ah, I'm so happy you came on. Very
hello.
cool. Very cool.
Yeah, yeah,
That's how
yeah. I
you
did it.
pronounce your name, Jocelyn?
Jocelyn in English, obviously, but
Jocelyn.
that would be different in French. But yeah,
Ah, how would you say it in French? Hang on, let me see if I can figure it out. Let's see. Not figure it out, but uh,
I
oh,
think that would be quick. That would be tricky.
Jocelyn,
Jocelyn.
Jocelyn. Ah,
Yeah, you
Jocelyn.
got it.
Yes,
Yeah, you got it.
Jocelyn.
But that's
Okay.
quite tricky, though. I can.
I like to, I like to imagine because usually I can get French pronunciations. Your name was interesting, that's why I wasn't sure, but well, Jocelyn. Yeah, interesting.
Hello,
Very cool.
Jocelyn.
Very cool.
Yeah. Yes.
Very Yeah, I
Great.
like it in the French. It's very cool. Um, just to catch Beena up, Jocelyn was saying about that he teaches qigong, and you studied in China on this, right?
Yeah,
And
I did
did
it
it.
in China. I did it professionally. I actually published in many magazines and DVDs, and I was doing it professionally for nearly 20 years now. So it is something that I really love to do. And
Excellent.
yeah, I myself had very strong panic attack and agoraphobia for, I would
Mhm.
say, from 2004 to 2013. And so while I was doing it professionally, I realized that I was the key of my overcoming those fears was pretty much within the training.
Ah,
And yeah, I focused way more into the inner part of Shaolin martial arts where I was. And doing qigong for the last 15 years helped me massively because I don't have any sort of symptoms anymore. I can take a train again. I can take a plane.
fantastic, fantastic,
Yeah, it took me
fantastic.
10 years. It was a long run, but today I condensed those exercises, which consist of combining traditional qigong movement, power qigong movement with deep breathing patterns, and the stretching that you
Excellent,
have in hard qigong
excellent,
increase
excellent,
increase blood capillarities and oxygen and nutrient. And this is the reason why
excellent.
people, I'm guessing, and I've been training so many people, like a lot of people, and they really lost the connection, like I did, lost the connection between my brain electric signal to my body. And once I got the symptom from the pain, I couldn't control the symptoms with my brain. And that's quite funny, the back and forth, this sort of vicious circle that you have. Once you lost
Yes,
the brain,
yes.
the signal get wrong into your body, you get the symptoms and you can't get back and control them through your brain, the one that create them. So that exercise and method I design is literally helping the people that have suffering for symptoms to fully overcome them.
Wow.
Let me just go back here. So
Mhm.
you are saying that the pain on the body and the mind, the signals get disconnected. How?
Yes,
How does that
definitely.
start?
So it's pretty much the same as if you hurt yourself with some fire, and imagine that you have a huge delay between the moment your brain get the pain and the moment you send this electronic signal to your body. And the people I train with that suffer with high anxiety, high panic attack, OCD, whatever it was,
Yeah, yeah,
have a
yeah.
different electric signal from the pain, which is, let's say, pain A. They're supposed to receive a signal B, but they receive a
Ah,
signal Z. And this is the reason
ah,
why
yeah,
some people with agoraphobia had a fully different signal
yeah,
from what's
yeah.
supposed to be a usual bridge, and they used to have
I
a
got you.
fully pyramidal bridge. And
Yeah,
those exercises helps the people to reconnect the body with the mind with a proper electro
yeah,
receptor and
yeah. Okay.
electrostimulation.
All right. I just wanted to
That's
make sure that I'm clear. So what I just did there, I'll just share with you. You know what I do, Beena, what we do is
yeah.
way of impeccability. It is a life change, self change program. It's a
Mhm.
very deep, sophisticated program, and it's geared for the whole range. Somebody who wants to, not people who've got something wrong with them, but everything's right in your life, but you want more. Or CEOs, leaders, life coaches, therapists. Okay, so this was get a very sophisticated program, very intense, long, at least 4 months. Sometimes takes longer, but anyway. So I don't want to go into the details because I want to hear a lot more, and I have a bunch more questions. But just wanted to share that I used right there. I used one of our transformational mechanisms, and that's the repeat back. That's what we call it, repeat back. And I
Mhm.
just repeated back what you were saying in order to get clarity and to
Mhm.
check my own comprehension. I don't want to assume that I'm understanding what you're saying. I got to check it because I might say, "Oh, I understand." How do I know? Unless
I mean,
you
without,
sign off on my
right,
understanding, I don't know.
right.
I don't know.
Without the
Right,
practice, that will be quite complicated to get what I'm doing,
right,
obviously, because you
right,
can be super
right.
far from
Exactly,
physical
exactly.
exercise, you can
Right.
be super far
Correct,
from
correct, correct.
breathing, and
Right,
yeah, I
right.
understand that.
Right. So the other thing that we do is that we really focus on, and that is again in this nature of the thing that we do. It's very different to pretty much everything else out there. Is also association management. We call it. It's part of our extensive usage of vocabulary. We really master on vocabulary, not in any pedantic sense or any grammatical sense, but in the sense of just precision. We got Liga coming to join us. Brilliant, brilliant, brilliant. This is a double bonus. I wasn't expecting either of you. So, all right. But
Okay.
anyway, so well, I'll come back to this in a moment. I just want to say hello to Liga. Brilliant, brilliant, brilliant. I hope I'm saying the name right. Liga, is that how you say it?
Okay.
Maybe
First,
Leisha? I don't know.
still, I
Hello,
want to.
hello, hello. Yeah.
First, I was trying to say hello, Jocelyn. It is if I
Right.
know your name right, but it's very
Yeah, right. Well, yeah, it's quite tricky now. I get you. I get you. It's quite tricky.
it is interesting.
Jocelyn,
Hello,
right?
Liga. We are not hearing. Okay.
Liga's still connecting to the audio. You got to click on
Yeah.
the connect via the internet on that. There you go. There you go. There you go. Brilliant, brilliant, brilliant. Just
You
I
sound
you
you,
know
you
Jocelyn,
sound very British.
me.
You sound British a bit.
My accent is South African originally.
Oh, nice.
I've been in America for almost 30 years now, but the accent stays.
Yeah, I
Again,
can
because
tell.
yeah, when I hear an American, they sound normal to me. So, and my accent doesn't sound any different to me.
You
So the
sound
ear
Dutch. You
adapts.
sound Dutch British.
Correct.
Yeah,
It's
definitely.
from that exactly. That's a South African accent,
Yeah,
but it's just peculiar the way the brain holds on to accents because you adapt to
true.
hearing people that and they sound the same as you. When I hear South African now, they sound different. They're the ones that sound strange to me, and that's why I think my accent is perfectly normal, and I don't
I
update.
think it
So
is.
yeah, yeah,
Can
brilliant,
you make
brilliant.
Hello.
the Zulu sounds? Right? No, my old boss was from South Africa, and he could make all these weird African sounds that no one can.
I know South
Yes,
African
yes,
words, but I'm
yes,
not going
yes.
to
I
tell
mean,
them now.
South Africa. My home language always was English, but I have a bit of a country accent. And back in South Africa, I have a very rough accent. It's not
Yeah.
particularly a cool accent. Yeah, in America, people love it. It took me a long time to click onto that, but anyway, it works for me. So what can I say? But yeah, there's some very rough sounds in it's like German and Dutch too. They
But
have that
you
hard
still
G, like
do
and
you
that's
still
it.
manage to speak Afrikaans? Do you still
Yes,
manage to
I can.
Ah,
I was fully fluent and bilingual. I don't care to speak it because I have to basically turn my brain around, and I don't
yes,
care to
yes.
do that. It's just it's a
Oh, still you're mute.
yeah.
Yeah,
Still
we lost
just
you.
No,
I'm
I just dropped off. I just dropped off. I'm
I'm
I'm I'm
currently living in Prague, in Czech Republic, for the last 10 years, by the way, in Prague.
brilliant, brilliant. And you, Liga, are we saying your name right?
Yeah, that's correct.
Liga, Liga. I see on Facebook you have a different last name. How do you
Oh
pronounce that
yeah, no,
one?
that's just for fun. That's basically is I only translated my last name in Italian because I come
Oh,
from Latvia. Yeah, I come from Latvia, and we usually our last names have a meaning. Like our names don't have
Yeah.
meanings, but our last names do.
wow.
Yeah,
Betcha.
so my because I have lived a little bit all over the place in Italy, and now I'm in Scotland. I kind of took a little bit from
You're in
there.
Scotland. Good luck with the accent then.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
get
yeah,
used to it.
yeah.
Although in
Absolutely.
every part of Scotland, they do speak differently. So it's like if you move, you have to get used to a new stuff all over again.
Yeah, you adjust. So what is and how do you pronounce that? Lubalela?
Oh, libellula, but that's in Italian. That just means dragonfly.
Ah.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Oh, Beena, will you message Donna? And well, she's probably still sleeping, but get Donna to on you. Donna also facilitates in wave impeccability, but dragonflies are a big deal for Donna. So anyway, hopefully she can come on in time. Yeah, yeah. You'll just hear all sorts of magic when it comes to dragonflies. So when we came on, Jocelyn was saying about what he does with qigong, but particularly we got into a very specific aspect of it. Of course, there's much more to it, but you were talking about being able to. Let me see if I can articulate this accurately. You are able to reassociate the connection between brain
Yeah.
and body, particularly in connection with pain or trauma. Right? You didn't say
Exactly.
trauma, but I'm adding trauma. In other
It's
words,
pretty
and
much
you were
what it
saying
is.
that what happens in the body is that the signals that transmit pain or trauma, they get disconnected. They get associated incorrectly, where they should have
Exactly.
a pain association. They have an external or a third
Exactly.
inappropriate association, right? And
Absolutely.
again, I'm just going to make that additional connection. This association management, it's something that's a very big deal in what we do in wave impeccability. Particularly, we are very, very, I don't care for the word masterful, but all right, we wizards at emphasis,
Yeah,
right? Got
absolutely.
to be. So it's all about emphasis management, and through emphasis management, de-emphasis management, which in the case of pain and trauma, you want when it's been inappropriately associated, and you want to now re-emphasize, right? You want to de-emphasize the inappropriate connectivity and re-emphasize an appropriate connectivity, and this is how you get the healing, right? Now,
Absolutely.
so we can do this, of course, you can do this psychologically, but if you're doing it with a qigong, I'm assuming there's a physical movement component involved with the reassociation and the re-emphasis, yes?
The breathing pattern that we use, that I'm used for that specific movement, qigong movement, is absolutely and massively important, because if you don't know how to breathe and hold your breath, you will never be able to open up blood cell capillarities. And the reason why we wanted to create more blood capillarities is because the more you have, the greater the signal. This is the same reason why some people take
The more you have what, sorry? The more what for the signal?
blood cell capillarities, the more oxygen flow you have in your system, and obviously
More oxygen.
Yeah.
The word just cut out. So the more
Yeah,
oxygen.
so it's pretty much the same as the people that taking flight. Some people, they're scared of flying, they get into the plane and they're like, oh, I'm scared, and they start to shake because the signal is maybe like that, the stress signal, and it decreases after some time. And some other people get into the plane, get some agoraphobic pain, and you don't know why. Some other guy, the person B, will have a way greater pain signal that won't decrease, and then the panic attack occurs. And the difference between person A and person B is just that the signal is way greater and higher on person B rather than person A. And it's because the person B have a full disconnect. I don't know if you can say disconnection in English, I don't think so, but the person B is way more disconnect in between the signal the brain sends to the body. And so the symptoms from the body are higher than the person A. And it's all about the signal they receive.
And this is connected to the oxygen.
Oh, sorry, I cut in.
Oh, go ahead, Liga. Go. No, go ahead.
One person just has a better understanding of their body signals than the other.
Exactly. It's not just they have a better understanding, it's just they naturally have less stress response than the person B. But the problem with all the people I've been training and helping so far is they never experience and explain them the concept of brain signal and stress response. They said, oh, once you have the stress response, talk to yourself. Because I've been pitched by so many people. Talk to yourself.
It's bullshit. Yeah.
I'm going to be fine. That is something that will never work. You need to really reconnect the brain signal. And by doing qigong and breathing at the same time, deep breath. By doing some movement, when you stretch the chest, you get a better posture by holding your breath at the same time, open up blood capillarities. And the more you connect the breathing with the body, the more you connect the signal to the symptoms. And this is one of the things that helped massively 100+ people.
Right. So, and the key here is you are reconnecting the brain and the body signals appropriately.
Exactly, the message.
That's the key. It's the appropriate and the reassociation. You have to do the physical connectivity, but also you need to have the psychological focus, the emphasis on the association. In other words, really, if we want to look at it from a computer analogy, you have to retag it and relabel it.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So,
and if
there you go.
It's pretty much the same as we're talking together. You're coming on Zoom call, you're always late. Always late. And I'm telling you, please.
Never. Sorry.
It's the first time. So it's never late, but it's just an example. Yeah, you're always late.
I know. I just be the checker.
Please be on time. Whatever I'm going to tell you, please be on time. It would never work. So I need to change my proper message. So basically, I need to not be there if you're a minute late. And then you will adapt to my signal, which is, oh, he's not there on time. If I'm late 1 minute, he disappeared. So I need to be there on time, in order to talk to him. So it's very much about the same thing. It's about reconnecting the message from
association.
Association.
When we really understand, we call it association management. It's a compound term with a hyphen in there, and we have a particularness to using vocabulary, and we call it the dictionary of power. So this is a dictionary of power term, and it would be Jocelyn's dictionary of power, Liga's dictionary of power, Beena's dictionary. It's yours. So what you do is you make this entry, and what goes in there, it's things that are meaningful, that make a difference, that are important. So it's association management, capital A, capital M with a hyphen. So it's a compound term because it's a conception, not a word. It's a conception. And then, of course, you understand, what does association management mean to you? And the benefit of this is that you basically build this whole pyramid of understanding. But it's hard to remember that entire pyramid because it's complex. There's a lot going on with it. But so you understand it, you really understand it to the very depths of it. Then all you do is put that capstone on, which is association management. When you use that conception, when you use that term in your language, you automatically pull the rest of the understanding with it, right? In the same way as if you say, there we go, spaceship. When you say the word spaceship, there's all sorts of stuff that goes with it. There's an understanding behind what that term means. So we leverage this innate ability of ours to connect extended meaning with a particular conception. It needs to be properly associated thus. So this is how you can leverage yourself. Now, yes, the real magic of this. When we do this with association management, if that particular power conception becomes part of your everyday language, because we are innately honest, you cannot use a term like association management or impeccability. You can't use this if you don't fully understand it. If you do fully understand it, your honesty is going to say, you better apply this. You better be using this, like in the case of, say, impeccability. Otherwise, you're just a BS and a phony. And we can't be that. It goes against our innate honesty. So you automatically start living it, you start being it, and we get this inadvertent learning. Again, another power conception that we focus on. Inadvertent learning is ridiculously potent. It's unbelievable. Kids, Liga, you probably see this in your kids. They are geniuses at implication. They listen to things, and it's not just what you say, but what's implied. They are masters at this. So we have to understand this with us too when it comes to association, that we can associate via implication. It's really powerful. And that inadvertent learning comes from implied things. If you really think back to yourself when you were a kid and you observe parents and teachers and whoever, you saw all those implications. They're talking, for instance, hypocrisy. Kids all understand hypocrisy by implication.
That's true.
Right?
That's true.
Inadvertent learning. It's incredibly potent. So we can leverage this through this focus on our real vocabulary. I don't mean vocabulary as in just being able to use fancy words, but no, the vocabulary of conception. abstract conception, which is, it's like a top high level coding programming language, right? Each coding language, they get more and more abstract. They take the previous language and they just abstract it and make it into a smaller, tighter language, but it's more complex, more sophisticated. We can do the same thing. And when we do this with these abstract understandings that become part of our everyday speech, we automatically start to apply them, which is a fantastic way of self-change and life change. And I would assume, well, at least not assume, I know this works really well. Okay, I'm not talking about it now in the case, but when we apply this in way of applicability to trauma or stress or past misbeliefs, it's really, really potent, particularly if you take the same thing and you go to a root conception that somebody has as a belief system. So you can take anybody's, if you look at something that they're doing in their daily life, their behaviors, and you kind of take that as the leaf of a tree, and you work backwards from that, and you go to the branch, and then you go up the twigs, you go to the branch, you go to the big branch, you go to the trunk, and then you get to the root. What is the root belief that all of this follows from? Sometimes that root belief, which we've forgotten, is a misbelief. And this is really potent. When you can rectify that understanding, the whole downline chain changes. And that's the thing that happens with a pain trauma. At that moment, it's like phobias. At that moment, the thing that is the pain wasn't emphasized, but something else was emphasized. Let's assume that the pain was caused by a parent. The pain itself wasn't emphasized, but the fact that the parent is causing the pain. And this is more psychologically traumatic than the physical pain itself. So the connection between the pain is between pain and parent, not pain and, let's say burn or whatever it is, right? Yeah. Fantastic stuff. So I want to get back to this. Liga, please jump in if you have anything to say. I'm very excited about this stuff because it ties into what I do. And so
yeah, I do. I'm just muting the microphone because otherwise, when the baby is making noises, you will get all focus on me.
No, it's okay. It's not a problem. Really and truly, not a problem. No worries. That at least not for me. Don't bother me in the least. So not a worry. Truly, happy to hear the baby. I'm now very keen on the physical mechanism that you employ for this. If I'm understanding you correctly, to reassociate the connections, right?
Yeah.
You are reassociating through emphasis via breathing, yes?
Exactly. What I'm doing is pretty much same as people listening radio, and I'm helping people to find the correct frequency in order to listen better.
Yeah.
That's what I'm doing.
Yes.
I reconnect the frequency of their radio, which is their brain, and their post radio, which is their body, to be fully connected in order for the post radio, I don't know how you call that, the physical radio, to give the proper sound, the best sound, and the clearest sound as possible with the correct frequency. That's what I'm doing.
Yes. Because if people know the old days, or today you talk about dialing the radio, people say, what are you talking about? It's all electronic. I put the button and it's auto scan. Right. Well, when you do that manual tuning, especially if the station isn't all that clear, the station might be 91.7, but that's not necessarily your best signal. You might have to go to 91.69 or 68. Yeah. So there's that fine tuning. Yeah.
And that's the thing in people in the example from the people in the flight, they just have a different frequencies, each of each other. They have just a different frequencies. And one have a better sound going up from the radio, and the other one have a sort of crazy sound, and that makes the symptoms coming up.
Right. And then you get cross signals, and you get bounce signals, and you get all sorts of stuff. So we have to get really specialized and really particular, and have a sophisticated finesse when it's understanding signals, because they can get cross, they can get overlap, they can have interference, all sorts of things go wrong with this. So
it's quite funny because cool. I never thought in my life I will do that to help people that help me, being a support for me. But it really works, and it really helps people. And it's funny when I met people like you, how much your method is, if you think about it deeply, it's quite the same. And the roots of it
it's very much the same. Absolutely. And because we do try and use. Say again.
Yes, I don't make bullshit, because I've heard so many bullshit around. Oh my God, some people having groups with selling mantra that you have to tell in the flight or in a stress situation. You really think a mantra will help you? I mean,
Oh God. Oh God. This is getting really.
I have literally written. Oh, go ahead, Beena.
I was saying that this
Yeah,
is
it's a big
really
deal for us. Yeah.
interesting because for me personally, mostly meditations are just trying to imagine something. I never get really uh, something significant out of that. So for me, meditation is a different thing, and especially these mantras and chanting for physical ailments and all these things. No, sorry, it's you use the word BS, and and Sil has written a whole book about that. That which actually is about BS,
Actually.
and and also we have a very extensive program about this whole BS and BMNs and BSers. It's a pure psychology, and we have a very extensive program about that. But I have a question for you.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
you
Just to differentiate real quick. Sorry, Beena. Yeah, hold your thought to 1 second. The program is called The Psychology of the Superiority Paradigm. So yeah, and it's a little bit it's the same essentially, but it's a shift in the focus to
yes,
really understand the underlying psychology that leads to all the BS. That hierarchy, the superiority paradigm. When you understand that, then it all starts to make sense. Awesome.
yes.
Keep going, Beena. Keep going.
Yeah. So my question is about you said about qigong, if I'm pronouncing it right.
Yes, yes.
Yes.
I want to
And
know also.
so this and the tai chi. So tai chi
No,
is are exercises.
Tai Chi is completely different. Tai Chi is something that Tai Chi is the same as learning yoga. It will take you years of practice, same as meditation, years of practice in order to feel the
Right.
first benefit out of it. It's very, very complicated, and it requires too much effort for some people that want to have something compact and easy to implement in the daily life. Qigong is way more something you can do on the same position, same place. It's just like going to help you to increase your muscle and time and attention while breathing. So it's way easier than that. It's the same as yoga. So
Can you
yoga is
can you give us a definition and understanding? Describe what qigong is, just so that we're clear that we all understand the same thing. I have an understanding, but I want to be sure that I understand it the way you understand it.
Yeah, Qigong is ancient, like let's say 5,000 years inner martial arts from originally from China, and Qigong was invented for the people that have traumatic, physical traumatic trauma in their body, and it was actually helping them to find a very easy movement. Yet super effective, that can actually open up the ribs and let the qi, what they call the Chinese, the qi, to flow
Yeah.
easily in the body.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you do have the same sort of thing in India. They do have the same. All of these, pretty much all of those religions have quite the same base with the definition of qi. What I think is the qi is actually, because I lived in China and trained in China 8 hours a day, nonstop, and I've been doing this for close to 20 years. So what they call the qi is very much the signal. It's the electric signal that runs through your body. And this is what they call, what traditionally they call the qi. The qi is pretty much the thing that if you do that, your foreheart though they describe it as a chi, but in reality, it's just the your forearms to contract. I think the breath helps regulate the.
Wow, this is really interesting because again, it is for me because I'm so much trained again through all this way of impeccability and Moreness ideas and perspectives. So for me, it is about the emphasis, as Sil already mentioned, and also that to your thing about shifting that signal transmission between mind and body. This is about focusing and perspective shifting also, but not just mentally, but you are actually incorporating and making association with your body.
You just can't do just all the time. If you're having focus into the mental, you never have the frequencies flow between your brain and your body. It's just impossible.
Exactly.
It's impossible.
Exactly.
Hmm.
Well, I wanted
Exactly.
maybe
So-
to jump in a little bit because I do come from a counseling background. So also I have worked a lot with anxieties and panic attacks. And I think, yes, what you're saying is true. It's, for me, what has been working is basically just allowing the emotion to happen. So it's because our minds, they run their own course. Like it's really a whole new world in itself. And it's not the truthful world. It's like, it's assumptions, it's conditions, there's everything that's been put in there from outside, but mixed with our own stuff. But when you listen to what's happening in here and it's coming from inside, that's the truth. That's your truth. And when you tune into the emotion and you kind of just feel what it is, you can relax. It's not scary.
So what you're telling me is this: actually you regulate yourself, the signal, by focusing into your emotion and let them go. So basically what you did by letting those emotions go away is pretty much make you probably cry, make you having physical symptom. Yeah. So in other way, you reconnect the signal to your body by let your body cry or let your body shake or let your body say go away and get your emotion and you sweat and everything. So it's pretty much the same. Just like you are probably have a disconnection that was, or disconnection, you had like some sort of issue that might be less problematic than some other people, because the people that I've been training and helping so far that have insomnia, they couldn't sleep, the people that want to kill themselves are in a higher level of electrostimulation rather than you. And if you tell those people, even if it works for you, it could not work for them, because if you tell them, just sit down and let your emotion release, they will tell you, look, I can't sleep. How do you want me to it's a vision. What you do could definitely help. But so far, for the people that really digged and they're really deep into those pain, I think their body already, they already lost the bodies long time ago. And I'm sure that
they connect to that body. Yeah, I think it's never too late.
No, they lost the part. That's 100% sure. They lost something at some point. They lost it. That's 100% sure. But if you, what you did by letting your emotion go and make you probably cry and everything, it's the same. You just reconnect your body with your thought. You let the thought go away, the negative one, and they describe, they transcript into crying, sweating, and they go away. So it's pretty much the same. It's the same.
Okay, I have a question for both of you, and Liga, especially for you, because you mentioned about emotions and letting these things out. Yes, we all know that, okay, emotions are actually the energy in motion, and which is stuck inside. So we have trauma, we get all these things and symptoms. But when we actually let our emotions out, it is like, okay, we start crying, yelling, shouting, or say, what is out is something that's ingested inside and I just let it go. Okay, might be some part of it just went outside, but not necessarily completely, because it is not specifically redirected. Because for me, it is like just releasing the pressure from the pressure cooker. Okay, I release that.
What you're saying, it depends on what kind of emotions you're working. Because if you kind of look at release part, usually that is when you need to release something. That's like a pressure pot, right? That's because there's something that's been building up. It hasn't had any outlet, and usually that's what we would probably term the uncomfortable emotions. Yeah. But who says that we only need to tune into those, into things that we consider problematic? The spectrum of emotions is so big, and there's not a right or wrong time to do that. You can actually listen to what's happening in your body at any time of your day. And you don't necessarily have to do anything about it, like release, or you can just, it's basically how I see it. It is just strengthening and creating a relationship with yourself. It's getting to know yourself, and it doesn't just a loving thing you can do for yourself. That's why in a way often, that intense. I'm not sure if I answered the question, but in a way, if you want to direct or use your emotions differently, it all comes from the focus. It all comes from your intention, what you want to do with them. So it all starts from your is it conscience? No, it's the consciousness, that's the word. It's
Yeah.
your choice what you want to do with them.
Right.
I just mentioned traumatic emotions because Jocelyn was talking about these things because it was very specific to those type of intense emotions we have. That's why I just mentioned that. Of course, we have a whole spectrum of emotions in our body. And again, as you mentioned about that, it is about our intent, our focus, and our actually the consciousness and bringing our emotions into the forefront of our consciousness so we can deal with this impeccably. I can use only impeccable terms here because I belong to this. I'm a co-facilitator here, so that's why I just use all these vocabulary. So
It's all good. It's all good.
interesting, Liga, really interesting. I just love that what you mentioned right now. Thank you. Thank you for sharing.
So I also want to ask about specific techniques that you employ for this reassociation of between trauma and pain, whether it be psychological trauma or physical trauma, make no difference. It's all about these signals being inappropriately associated, right?
Yeah,
and that's the technique, that's the process: reassociation, re-emphasis, reconnection of signals. So I'm keen to hear the techniques that you use specifically. You already mentioned breathing.
You talked to me. Okay, I didn't know if you talked to me.
Both of you, yeah.
So you want to know how what we do exactly in order to release
specific techniques, yeah, specific techniques to reassociate and reconnect those signals, to have appropriate signals rather than inappropriate signals. In other words, the end result is how to feel differently. Right?
The end result for me by what I'm doing is to have a long term, and yet
Yes, has to be. Same
some
for us.
people I train have the same as Liga, the same thing, and she's so right about this because they tend to cry, they tend to have emotion, but also they tend to have emotion because they increase the oxygen and reduce the CO2. And on the other side, when we do the holding breath by doing the movement, this is what I'm doing. Some movement we're doing full lungs, and we do the exercise by keeping full lungs by the stretch, and some other exercise we're doing empty lunge in order to increase the CO2. And having
you're doing what? Sorry, I missed the word.
Doing the stretch in the movement while empty lungs. So we all the breaths
while empty,
because empty lungs increase the CO2 in the blood cell.
I'm still not hearing the second part. Empty land? No, can't be right.
Lungs.
Oh, empty lungs. Okay.
Sorry. It's really bad English. Really bad
No,
English,
it's not your accent. Just the word kept breaking up right on that second part of it. So it's like, come on.
So the
empty
roots,
lungs. I got
of what I'm teaching people is by this traditional Qigong movement, combining with modern breathing, deep control breathing patterns, you can accelerate the oxygen flow and decrease the CO2, or increase the CO2 and decrease the oxygen. In order for your cells, to be very specific, in order for your cells inside your body to be able to reject the CO2 faster and absorb the O2 higher. And if you don't teach your cell, I know it's a bit technical, but it's interesting.
No. This is what I want to hear. Exactly. I want to hear the technical. Yeah.
Do that, you have a greater signal response and stimulus. And this is the core of my exercise. Pretty much the same, basically, of a mantra. If you think about a mantra, I've been in Nepal 5 or 6 times for trekking. And when you met those guys, even when I lived in a monastery in China, the mantra are specific words that resonate into your throat and your body in order to.
It's a frequency, not a word.
Frequency, yeah, it's a frequency.
It's a difference. It's a resonance frequency that's very particular, right? The word itself is irrelevant. It just happens to coincide.
I'm just talking for the people that have no clue what it is. For some of the people that have no idea, it's basically word that is frequencies, exactly. And those frequencies resonate completely different in your body and make the cells to move. And because the cells move, the greater the signal is. And this is why some people heal themselves with mantra. It's the same concept. But I had the movement and the holding the breath to accelerate the process for the people that suffer from.
Interesting. Very cool. So this is what we focus on: that acute, precise, finesse, sophisticated understanding. We call it capital U understanding, Know exactly what you are doing, and you're not ever going to get lost. Because, like in this case here with the sound, it is that resonance frequency that's important. People miss the boat. They think it's the word, it's the repetition. No, it is the preciseness of it, the combination in the body. And I think much of yoga, sadly, has been in lost, because to the original part of it is the posture was an intent to feel something, to manifest into the physical body a particular abstract psychology or an understanding or a conception. That association between the intent and the movement has been lost. So you're only getting the physical exercise part. You aren't actually transforming your body to feel differently, to hold in it, literally to incorporate, right? To make corporeal. The word
Absolutely.
incorporate means to make physical, right? To literally incorporate a particular conception, a particular understanding, a particular intent. Now, we get big into intent. Intent is a huge power word for us, massive power conception. Not intention, but intent. We differentiate between the two. I'm a little bit, every time I see people say intention, it's like, hey, get it right. When you differentiate between the two, intent is a commitment, it's an action, it's an investment of energy that you are saying, I am doing this, I will do this, and it's a deep commitment and application of energy. Whereas an intention is just basically a wish and a hope and doesn't mean much. Right. So very big difference between the two. Many people have good intentions but don't do anything about it. But when you set an intent, that's a very different thing. You are already engaged in the process, even though it is a future. You are now constantly putting energy into it. It's a doing. Intent is a doing, a physical doing. Very big difference. So just to differentiate, the key point I wanted to make is when you get really precise and specific and understand exactly what it is you're doing, this is transformative. This is transformative. Makes all the difference in the world. Without that, you kind of waste your time, as we see with, like you said, with the mantras and they're
I
wasting
know.
their time.
If you
Don't
go,
know what
if you
they're
go,
doing.
if you go in Nepal or China, all of those guys will tell you that in Western countries, they're not meditating, they're resting. They're not they're not resonating the mantra in their throat, they're actually singing. And that's the big difference. And that's the problem. I've been
Yeah.
here in Prague, in Czech Republic. I'm very close to, basically, I'm very close to Liga. Technically, we're not that far. And we do have a lot of yoga center here. There's some great one, but the one that asks you to sing Om Mani Padme Hum with your hand like that is just strange for me. You know what I mean? It's complicated to see how it is. I've tried it. I've tried it in Nepal or India, and it's so hard that it was very hard for me, to be honest with you. So you can tell the difference, obviously. You can tell the difference.
It's the intent behind it, and that the deeper understanding. So, in way of impeccability, the start of this is the very first module one, session one, is about, it's called clarity of intent. If you do not have clarity of intent, if you don't know what it is that you're doing, everything is wasted. But if you know exactly what you're doing, then everything automatically starts to become associated because and emphasized because it's relevant and pertinent to your intent. Whenever there's that relevance and pertinence, again, two power terms that we use, capital R relevance, capital P pertinence. That relevance and
Yeah, I know.
pertinence
I just wanted to add
emphasizes it
some,
particularly to you. Say again, Liga?
just something little here about the intent and about the clarity. I find, yes, I agree that once you have the clarity and you know what you want, everything just kind of, your actions are focused. You go towards a goal with a new energy. But I find, at least in my experience, that's the biggest issue. We as people, we don't know what we want.
Exactly.
We don't know.
Exactly.
We want this, we want that. But then what we want consciously is not often the same what our subconscious wants. And that's why we go for one goal, but it never fulfills us or satisfies us, or it's not, it's not enough.
Right.
So,
and we differentiate between what you want and what you intend. We'll say, oh, what you want? I want a red Ferrari. Okay, you want to make the payments of whatever it is, you want those ridiculous guys. No, not so much. You want to be really, really stressing about your paint job every time you go and buy milk at the supermarket, like some trolley's going to buy. Oh, hell no, I don't want that. Do you want to pay, triple your insurance? No, I don't want that. Okay, so you don't really want the Ferrari, right?
Yeah. But what they want,
now that you mention it like that, no, thank you very much. I don't want it anymore.
But again, when you look at least how I try to understand that is, yes, you want the red Ferrari, right? But what you're actually after is the feeling, how you would
Exactly.
feel by having
Exactly.
that red Ferrari,
Exactly.
because it's
Exactly.
that
Exactly.
sensation you want
Exactly.
to feel
Exactly. Right.
good, you want to feel whatever it
Exactly.
gives you. It gives you maybe a
Right.
sense of empowerment,
Correct.
whatever it could
Exactly.
be. Hmm.
Yeah.
And imagine
So when we
if you,
come back to it, oh,
imagine if you
go good.
reconnect signal from your body and your mind once you get the Ferrari. Imagine how you can increase the dopamine production and the feeling of happiness by reconnecting that. Imagine someone have lost the connection and have a very poor signal, a poor frequency. You will get the Ferrari, will be happy, but then you will be like, yeah, well. And the one that have a proper signal will have an immense happiness, and that's apply for small thing, not just a Ferrari. The people that have a higher frequencies and better frequency with themselves have such a happiness.
It just raised something that I heard lately on YouTube. I was watching one of those TED Talks, and I don't remember which one it was at the moment, but there was a very nice analogy to that levels of happiness with what you want to achieve. And there's an example about when we want, for example, get into university, or let's say achieve something like getting a license, a car license, right? So when you achieve that, that's the top of the world. You've got it. You've got into wherever you want it to be. But then the reality sets in. Then there's all the tasks and things, and the exams or whatever, or getting the car. And somehow that first, it's so
Of
fast.
course.
Yes,
Of
exactly.
course, because
Exactly.
the word is crushing the feeling to a time frame that reduce over the time. The Instagram, Facebook, and all those stuff reduce the time frame of happiness. So you do have the Ferrari, and then yet something's missing, and you're always balancing between frustration and desire. You're always balancing between those two. You want the Ferrari, you get the desire, you got it, and then another guy have a better one, so you're frustrated. And so far and back and forth, and it's always jumping in between those two, and that's exactly the same as for example me after training. If you want to, if I want to give you a little bit more personal feeling about 17 years of training and living in China, now I'm more than happy to have my coffee in the morning, and that makes my day, literally my day, better. It has nothing to do with a Ferrari. It's a very short desire, but it's a great thing, and that makes my day completely different. And never before 15 years ago I would imagine that a cups in a coffee will make me so happy. But the connection that I have with the coffee now changed, because it's maybe small, but I feel it's greater. And the great about it, instead of a Ferrari, you can have it every morning, which is not the case of a Ferrari, obviously.
It, again, like we were saying, that root intent. If you're really clear about what it is that you intend, not just want, because there's a difference between want and intent. What you truly intend, not in a normal sense of your ambitions, but in the sense of your aspirations. Again, we differentiate between ambition and aspiration. What you want in your overall life, what you intend to do in that sense. What you intend, usually people intend things like peace of being. They intend to have completeness of self. They want to feel good about themselves, not have doubt and anxiety, not worry, stuff like that. So if you have those root intents and you say, now I really know what I want. The Ferrari was just a means to feeling good, but I can feel good more directly, right? I don't have to go via the thing. I can skip the Ferrari. That's just an association, a belief that it'll make me feel good. I can just
Absolutely.
feel good on myself. So what we do is we go directly into things like association management, and from there, habit management, which leads to mood management. Combine those, right? And energy management also, which is what impeccability really is. It's energy management. Now you get to mood management. Go directly to mood management. You can change your moods yourself directly. You don't need external things to change the mood. You can do it at the source. Once you realize mood is a choice, sherbet. So if you're feeling crappy, why am I choosing to feel crappy? Oh no, I didn't choose it. This just happened. habits, just legacy habits, just conditioning. Oh, I'm going to choose something different. Wow, this is a massive, massive,
Yeah.
massive transformation.
What you mentioned,
Big,
that
big,
actually
big.
for many people is quite scary to realize that
Oh
it
yeah,
is in our
oh yeah,
power to choose. It is in our power to decide
oh yeah, oh yeah,
how we
oh
are going to feel, because it's a habit to feel crappy. We are so
yes,
used to
exactly.
being in the victim mode
Yes, exactly,
that to choose
exactly. And
something different, it's just weird.
yes, yes. So we start right off from the bat. First, clarity of intent. Second, identify your chief enemy to when it comes to well-being, peace of being, happiness, joy, rapture, elation, bliss, you name it, reverence, grace. We love superlatives. The key obstruction or the key enemy is habit. This is it, habit, because habit steals our awareness. Habit by design, by definition, and by intent. When you set the habit, it is to get you into an unaware state so that you basically free enough energy. But it's a short-term benefit, not a longer-term benefit. So understand the power of habit. We want to live deliberately. That's where we get the real magic, real power, real joy through living deliberately. And this is the subtitle of the program. It's a toolbox for deliberate living. That conception, deliberate living, what a power conception, changes everything. We don't live deliberately. We go about life willy nilly according to habits, the flow of the wind, should, must be, all the stuff. We're not living our lives, we're living somebody else's life. If you don't live your own life, not getting anywhere. So we really focus on this. And part of the whole deal is whatever we identify what is of importance to you, what your values are, what really matters to you. But we want to make sure that it's yours, not someone else's. So owning your understandings, owning your beliefs, owning your ideas, this is a big deal. First, you check them out. You're impeccable. You're scrupulous and diligent and thorough. You make sure this is for real. Okay, you've done your due diligence, you've done your homework, but you've got to own it. Then on top of that, you've got to prove it to yourself, because you got to have your inner bureaucrats, we call them. They got to sign off on this to say, yeah, okay, so Liga, so Jocelyn, you may be believing this, but how do you really know it's actually for real and genuine? You got to prove it to yourself. Then only they can say, okay, you got it now, check, okay. You can get it to go through the system. It's again those signals, that last signal from those that we call the inner bureaucrats, which is essentially just your old brain, which is what keeps you alive, that your survival part. They need to sign off on things because that's their job, is to keep you alive. They can't give you permission to go and do stuff if they think it's risky. They have to be sure it's good and okay. So they need to give you that permission to own it and make it yours, to say this is now part of your system. They can't sign off on false beliefs that are dangerous. Yeah,
Yeah.
can't do it.
Absolutely.
Can't do it. So it gets real sophisticated, but when you understand it and you go into it, you live it, you apply it, now it all starts to work together. And that's the key. We want to have things, not a transformation from the leaf side out. No, we want to look at the roots. And then once you treat the roots, the rest of the tree automatically changes, right? It's like if you want to dye a tree, you don't go dye each leaf. It's unnecessary. Just put the dye by the roots and it will transform the whole tree. Yes. So we work from the bottom line to say, hey, get your inner core, get that sorted, get what's really important to you sorted. Know what it is that you want, your beliefs, your root core. Own them fully, thoroughly, entirely. Prove it to yourself. Now life is easy. If you've proved to yourself that, for instance, let's just say something simple like speaking to people, just expressing yourself. For many people, this is a difficult thing. But if you practice it enough and practice expressing complicated, difficult things like we are doing now, right? Or every Zoom session for us is capital P practice. Practice it enough, and you've now self-proven to yourself that you can do it. Well, life is easy after that. It's not a problem. But it's amazing how often we just don't have even 1 or 2 practice sessions to overcome that fear of awkwardness. We get put off. It's going to be difficult, and we never even try. But once you just do it and you see, it's not so bad. I thought it was going to be bad, but no, it's actually a lot. It's actually kind of cool. Then we shift into that self-ownership, and then we get to that peace of being. Yeah, it's very
Mm.
powerful, very powerful. That's why I'm keen to hear on your specific techniques We essentially use the techniques of understanding and emphasis through pertinence and relevance to get that deep resonance inside, because this is very key. You don't just want to understand, but you want to take that understanding and the entire whole deal of what we do. It's all about application. You probably hear us say a zillion times, without application, it's all meaningless. Got to apply it. Got to apply it. Got to apply it. This is if ever there was a mantra that we do, I don't care for mantras much because they're so misunderstood. But that one,
you tell to a kid not to
application.
touch the kitchen because it's hot, or the plate because it's hot. Wherever you will tell them a million times, they will never understand till the moment they will touch it and they will be burned.
Exactly.
So you need to have
that. Yeah, the application is key.
By the way, this is what it is: the frequency. They touch it, they have a signal in the brain, and they're like, "Wow, it's hot." The brain sends back a signal. Pain, don't touch it again.
Exactly.
So without that, you can't do anything.
Right. So we want to differentiate. Yes, Beena. Yes. Yeah. What we do is we coach coaches. We train coaches for coaching. Yes, or therapists, correctly, to just be more appropriate and to enhance their abilities, because you're getting to that real deep understanding. I was going to say, what were we saying just before that? Kind of a cool point that came up on this. Right. Memory knowledge. That's okay, Beena. Memory knowing. You see memes. I have great fun with the memes on the internet, right? By now, I think I've seen 1 trillion memes. I'm guessing probably you guys have already also, right? Of the wisdom memes I'm talking about, right? Famous quotes, famous sayings, famous understandings. And these are all legitimately, genuinely powerful stuff. Why haven't we completely transformed from reading all those memes? Every time I see them, I'm like, wow, that's pretty cool. Oh, that's awesome. Oh, fantastic. Yay. And what does it do for me? 5 minutes later, I'm on to the next thing and it's meant nothing. Tomorrow, you ask me, what was that profound realization you had yesterday? It was so transformative. You saw that meme and you thought your brain was going to explode. What was that meme again? I don't know. Why?
Well, I do believe that.
Why does this happen?
That's a good question. However, I do believe that if you feel that your body or your soul or being is responding to that, something energetically is being assimilated or triggered. So it's not worthless experience.
Yes.
Because you're not taking action on it again.
Exactly.
It's the ego part. Just somehow scared, I think. That's my interpretation, if it's correct.
Exactly.
I think the ego is scared of the change it could bring into your life. Because ego likes safety, it likes things that are known.
Absolutely. Yes. So there's a whole complex psychology to it. I'll go into in a moment, particularly with responsibility and the awful truth. But the key essential part is, for most people, they see and recognize and have a realization as to the profoundness of what they're reading. They recognize it and realize it, but it's only an intellectual realization. And they believe because they've understood it and it's in their memory as an understanding, this is enough. Because we've been trained that memory is everything. So they acquire a memory knowledge of it, but there's no application. None whatsoever. It hasn't gone into the body. It hasn't gone into changing your habits and routines in your daily life. It hasn't gone into changing what you do and how you are as a person. All it does is gone onto your, like in your computer. It hasn't changed your operating system, which you need to change. It's only some data on your hard disk, which doesn't mean much. Yes, it can have some value and some influence. It's not entirely useless, but it doesn't have near the same use if you can take that and now use it to transform your actual underlying programming, your operating system. That's what we want. So that's where the application comes from. You've got to take that understanding, that realization, and actually use it, and not to be fooled by the power of memory learning, memory knowledge. We truly, truly believe this. One of the cliches to exemplify this are psychology professors. Right? They're very cliched for being, psychological messes for themselves. They understand psychology, they teach it, but personally in their private lives, it's a complete mess. It's kind of a cliche, but it exemplifies the problem. I mean, I literally saw this myself. When I was at university, it made me give up on the whole business because it's a waste of time. here's somebody who is teaching, they understand the material, but they don't apply it. Dude, you're missing the point. And you're a psychology professor. Like, come on, seriously. How do you completely and utterly miss them? Not just them, but the industry. So you have to apply it. Without application, it's all meaningless. Right?
I fully agree, because it's the same in my work. What I'm trying to do now with some clients is I would say 90% of the people that I teach now, they have no clue, because no one told them about the brain signal and everything of that. They just tell them, do that exercise and that will work. But one moment the people needs to understand, because if you don't have the understanding of what's really happening during the movement and the breath, you can't focusing on that. And that's I'm so agree with you. How many doctors do you see smoking cigarette? There's a tons of them. How many fitness trainers smoking? And yet they're doing a great job, and yet they're having great physique, but you don't know what it is really inside. They don't apply what they're actually teaching to people. So yeah, you need to be more in depth with sometimes with people.
Yeah, I have to take it to that level of
the root.
of application, of
Yeah.
physical application, right?
Definitely.
But not only physical application, but deliberate application. And deliberate here, I mean, to transcend habit and routine. So we want to make these new power understandings. That fantastic meme that you saw. You want to make this a deliberate, conscious habit and routine. That you're doing it deliberately and consciously. Now you have the full power. There's nothing like living deliberately, because when we live deliberately, when you do something deliberately, it has meaning and purpose and significance to you. MPS, we like to shorten it, right? And when you have that meaning and purpose and significance, you get magic per second, right? MPS. So it's very cool. We love acronyms and alliteration and mnemonic devices. In other words, it's not just something that we do randomly. It's a very conscious, deliberate thing, because the brain is a genius at association. So MPS, meaning, purpose, significance. Magic per second. It's easy to remember, and it triggers, and you get that triggering going down into your behavior. And this is what we want. We want to be able to recall through our language all of these deep understandings, which allow us to apply them directly, immediately, innately. It's really powerful. And of course, to develop that deliberate, conscious habit of mood management, association management, energy management, and attention management. Also, attention is a very powerful power. It's a force. You can really use your attention. Anyway, we get all into the layered detail of it. But it's very cool. It's very cool. Now, very keen to ask you. This is where I've kind of been heading. It's the way I work. I always have a center column, and yes, I may digress, but I want to come back to the center column again. And the center column for me here is direct application, right? Specific techniques for reassociation. That's what we're talking about in your case, right, Jocelyn? All right. So now you were talking about, we started off with reassociating the brain's perception and the body's perception and reconnecting them when they have disconnected signals, right? To be sure that the body is associating pain with pain and not pain with your mother, your grandma, your auntie, whatever, right? Okay. Now, what about taking that in the other way around to say, okay, brain, I have the association with, let's say, impeccability, a conception, but I understand this conception, but I want to get the body to feel, and I want to feel this understanding of impeccability. How do I associate in reverse, or at least how do you deal with that reverse associating of a psychological abstract conception, a belief, a potency, an intent, in other words? How do you get the body to associate a particular feeling with that conception?
That's a very good.
Yeah, it's a very good. Please.
Okay, thank you. No, I think, again, it kind of depends whether you are familiar with the feeling you want to experience or not. Because if it is something you have never felt before, I think it's pretty impossible to get there, because you just have nothing to, you don't even have a memory, at least not a conscious memory of it. So
that's a bottleneck.
Yeah, that's the easiest example, which I can say, and it's probably quite popular with people, is the feeling about abundance. We are very familiar about what lack is, and it could be emotional lack, any kind of lack. and it's like someone wanting the Ferrari, right? But they just have no idea what it feels like to have the Ferrari. They think they know it, but they don't really know it, so they can't create it. So I'm not really sure where I'm going with this thought, but that's kind of a
no, that's the whole thought right there, is that you cannot associate what you do not know. So this is a problem, because we are looking the feeling of impeccability. Who the hell knows what this? Where do you see anybody that physically exemplifies impeccability? You can see people physically exemplifying courage or confidence or fear or timidity, whatever, but impeccability, doesn't exist. So how do you? Yes, this is an issue. Now, there are ways and means that you can do this. You can use imagination, creativity, and figuring it out, and plus and minus, for instance, just empiric method, in other words. Is this it? Until you get, okay. And then you get that. So you can do it, but it is more difficult, yes.
I would
there
say
is a technique. There is a technique which I can come up with, and I'm not sure if it's mine or it's just, sometimes these kind of knowings, they just pop up in your head. So at least what I would do for a feeling which I don't know, what I would do personally would be stay open and ask for possibilities to experience it. So it's basically being open, consciously trying to be open and to receive whatever is coming your way. Because of course, when we don't know something, we kind of imagine how it could be. So our mind is focused to expect it in a certain way.
Yeah.
But it could be something totally different. And we are not used to, again, I'm talking about habits. We're not used to expecting something we don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. And I would say myself, if you want to have, it's a little bit different point of view, but if you want to know, if you never know about what's the feeling of, let's say, driving a Ferrari, let's keep that example. If I were me trying to know the feeling and trying to get to that point, which is the outcome, driving a Ferrari, I would first get into a regular car and have the connection once again between my mind and my body of driving fast. And then I know that if I go to the Ferrari or a higher car or a higher feeling, the increase of dopamine and the feeling, the happiness will increase at the same time, which leads me to being way more ready to go to the outcome I want to do. So I would drive a car, increase the speed and then go into, let's say, a track and try to drive a car into a track. And I would get even closer. And I will change my habit by adding something that will give me instant reward.
Yes.
And when I do have the instant reward, I get closer to the point. And once I get into the point, I'm already familiar, sort of thing. Because I believe there's a big deal here. If you jump from point A straight to point B, you will have step backs. That's 100% sure.
Exactly. You can't go A to Z. Yes. You got to go A, B. You got to go steps. Yeah.
You cannot bring someone that never drive a car to a Ferrari, because first of all, it will be far from knowing what's happening.
Exactly.
And probably it will lose the true feeling of it. And so the concept is all about the way. So the concept of going step by step to bring instant reward, the feeling of the speed, the feeling of the wind on your face, the feeling of having the wheel that shake, all of that brings me closer to the outcome. But that's my point of view.
Yeah. So it's about the
I love it.
Sorry?
It's about the process itself. It's how you put your energy into that. You might actually halfway between A to Z.
Exactly. So let me articulate that process, right? At least from the way we do it and use it. Is this something we do very deliberately and very precisely? First of all, it is to understand those inner bureaucrats, like I said. Their job is to keep you safe and to survive. That means they're not allowed even one mistake, right? Because then you're dead. So they can't. So they tend to be exceedingly conservative. For instance, back in the day, we see the ice across the river. We want to cross. You can't just run across the river. That's it's a commitment. You could, if you do this in one big go, obviously you could fall down. But if you put your foot gently, you test the weight, you move incrementally. This is the safety mechanism for testing things out. Do it little by little until you're sure, then you can go. So that part of the brain is absolutely geared towards this. It trusts incremental change, it distrusts radical change. So if we want to get somewhere, use this mechanism, use incremental change, because the body feels safe with it. The same thing with affirmations. If I have a bad temper and I say, I want to change it, and people say, oh, just tell yourself in the morning, look in the mirror and say you don't have a bad temper. And you stand in the front of the mirror and say, I have no bad temper, I've got no. And basically your inner bureaucrats are just saying bullshit, 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 right? And you're a liar. So now you actually make things worse, because you keep telling yourself something that you feel is a liar, and you train yourself that you feel like a liar. You're adding being a liar onto being having a bad temper. However, if you say, okay, I want to change my temper, and I'm making effort to do so, and now you come into the mirror and you say, you know what, I've been making efforts and my temper is just a little bit better than it used to be. If this is technically true, and they're bureaucrats, remember, it doesn't matter by how much. It could be 0.001%, but that's true. So now the bureaucrats say, yes, that's true, your temper is a little bit better. And tomorrow you say this again, my temper is a little bit, and now you've got a process of change and incremental change. At some point, as your temper now, because you're also saying something, and because there is some actual measure to it, you reinforce your change and your growth. Now you get to a point to say, oh, you know what, my temper isn't as bad as it used to be. You know, and I kind of don't even have a temper anymore so much. When you get to that point, you've succeeded in your goal. And it goes a lot quicker than we think. But the key is to leverage your inner self-honesty. This absolutely has to be there. So when we make radical change, it's very difficult for our inner honest part to get on board. But when we do so incrementally, we can get on board, right? And that's the power. It's not just the incremental change, but also leveraging our inner self-honesty. Our conscience has to be on board. In other words, our inner impeccability has to be leveraged. Without that, you're wasting your time, which is, again, why we call the program Way of Impeccability, because it's energy management at core. You know, impeccability being by definition the core, a bunch of definitions, but the core definition is best use of energy. Don't waste your energy. Use it effectively and appropriately. Energy is an investment. Invest your energy. Use it sensibly. See where the effort reward is, etc., etc. Yeah. So it's very powerful. So if we take this, how to change. Sorry, Beena. I want to add one more point quickly, Beena, is to also to leverage extrapolation. We specifically now talking about implementing something that you don't know how to feel, like, say, for instance, the feeling of abundance. We don't know what it is, but take the feeling of just getting a gift. Oh, I remember getting a present. Wow, exactly. Wow. Okay, so leverage extrapolation. Extrapolate the feeling of that gift, the feeling of joy, the feeling of moreness. Extrapolate this into the grand feeling of abundance. Same thing with the Ferrari. Okay, so my VW Bud. It was a car. It was something new. It was exciting. Extrapolated into the Ferrari. So extrapolation is very powerful, very, very powerful. And leverage, self-leverage. You want to leverage it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely.
So just going back again to, oh, sorry, Beena. Sorry, go ahead. I'll come back to this. I just want to recap on something. Yeah.
This is something but really interesting, because as Liga shared and as Jocelyn shared about this, that we don't have feeling. But there are few things in life when you really don't have any idea before, like things happen out of nowhere, once in a blue moon, and just you got this. Okay, it happens, and not only material things, but some idea. Really profound idea or perspective, you got it, and it to that what you shared, Jocelyn, and still what you shared. Sometimes it's in a very peculiar way, thinking it through to the end. Also, your understanding and your ability to receive that. Yes, we don't have any idea about this thing. We cannot feel any relation or related to that thing. But still, we got this, we have this. Like Way of Impeccability for me, it was actually mind-blowing for me. I was like, oh my God, it was so overwhelming. I was never been in these things before. I had no idea about these things. But when it comes, the whole process for me was just think it things through to the end. As
To
much,
the end. Gotta shout it. It's important.
because what we do in that, we make ourselves familiar with the newness by thinking it through to the end, or at least try to think it through to the end. We make ourselves familiar with this any idea or thing. Like when I do read books, for me, I'd need at least 4 days before reading that just to have it in my pillowcase. This is my way of just getting familiar with this book. Just holding it in my hand, just flipping pages, not reading at all. This is my way. So, and later on, gradually we develop this relationship. To develop relationship in very, I'm just saying that in a very specific situation where you don't have any idea that you got that. Thinking it through to the end is also a mechanism to leverage your receptivity for that particular idea, perspective, or anything.
Yeah. Super critical. Super
What you
critical.
guys already shared, including not. I'm just not.
Yes. Venus
Yeah.
doing a recap on it. Yeah, yeah. And this is essential, that thinking it through to the end. Why? Again, because of our inner bureaucrats. You can think something through like 95% of the way, right? And you have a conclusion and you have an idea, and it seems wonderful. But you add those last two steps and they cancel everything that went before. And it invalidates it all. You have to get to that point where you cannot go any further. And well, I say, I can't go any further. I'm forced to accept this as whatever it is. Now your inner bureaucrats can sign off and say, okay, you've gone as far as you can go. We know it might not actually be valid in reality, but it's the best you got and you've got to use it. So it's going to be as good as it lasts. Okay, there you go. We know it's potentially flawed, but at least we're confident we did everything we could to, this is the best we can, that's available to us right now. All right, so we can use it. But if you don't go all the way, your body won't actually say you can use this because it's not finished. It knows it's wrong for a definite. It knows it's incomplete if there's still more to go. So it won't let you use it. You don't get anywhere with it. It just becomes something that sits there and clogs up the system, as it were. And we can see this, for instance, just in everyday life, where people are believing stuff and it's like one step logic, and they haven't literally even thought to step two, never mind all the way to the end. They just get stuck on the obviousness of step one, and it's very limiting in their lives, severely limiting. Anger is a particularly
I
good
find
one
that
on
to
this.
be, again, a component of our human nature, that we want to know what will happen. We want to know how it will happen because we find safety in knowing the steps.
Wow.
What I have learned over last years, at least in my experience, is that we are not geared towards just being allowing or being in a state of allowance, because that is, I find that the more I practice it, the more familiar it becomes, because it kind of awakens old memories here, but it's the human physical part of me which wants the structure, which wants the physicality, the outcomes, the steps. But it's the untangible part of me which is okay with the flow, or okay with whatever is happening without expecting it. Because at the same moment, there can be so many different outcomes. And by narrowing down on something one, we just preclude everything else that's there on the spectrum.
Yeah. You gotta own it. You gotta own it. Otherwise, it's a waste of time. And own it. Also add that self-proof to it. You gotta have the complete steps all the way through. Is absolutely critical. And this too, I see that. All right. So let's look at this from a different perspective. We are talking essentially about change, right? Change in many ways, not just change in terms of the reassociation, but change in terms of habit, change in terms of mindset, change in terms of belief. If we are always just treating the symptom and never the cause, you're kind of wasting your time, right?
Definitely. Yeah.
Right. Furthermore, we take a big issue with problem and fixing. We don't fix anything. We're not interested in fixing your stuff. For instance, to give an example, right? Just take the 10 Commandments. I have a nice, big, fantastic workshop on the 10 Commandments. But essentially say, okay, thou shalt not steal. You teach your kid this, right, Liga? Say, thou shalt not steal. Good, that's a good thing. Your kid does it. But does it make your child, does it make them kind, considerate, courteous, Does it make them polite? Does it make them impeccable? No, it doesn't do any of those things. All it does is not stealing, right? However, if you teach your child to be kind, courteous, considerate, how are they going to possibly steal?
Yeah,
Can't do
exactly.
it, right? Can't do it. So, in other words, what we say, we focus on not on fixing problems, but on a positive replacement. A replacement which is you, what you sign off on, what's important to you. Our job as facilitators, we don't teach anything. We don't have a prescription, a belief system. No. Our job is to connect you to what matters to you, what's important to you. Now, yes, this is our skill and we have expertise in this, but nonetheless, essentially, it revolves around us simply listening to you, hearing you, and making the obvious obvious. You say, well, why do you want to make the obvious obvious? Well, because the obvious is usually not obvious until it's been made obvious. It wasn't obvious that one single moment before it became obvious. It wasn't obvious. So this is what we do. We just help you to connect to the obvious of you, the obvious of your moreness. And this is transformative because now, again, we aren't dealing with the symptoms. We're going right to the root of it. You connecting to what's important to you. And we are treating with replacement, a powerful, positive replacement daily in your habits, in your being, in your belief, your understanding, what you've always believed and understood, what was important to you. We tap into your deep intent to goodness and we bring that to the fore because it's always been there, but conditioning suppresses it and should layers it and disguises it and sublimates it and other things like from earlier it came up, and I meant to say this, things like avoidance of the awful truth and that inability to take responsibility or the unwillingness to take responsibility again because of the misassociations that taking responsibility is going to lead to stress. So a lot of people don't want to, like we were talking about the memes, they see the meme, they see the power, and you touched on it, Liga. You said, yeah, but they don't want to take responsibility. Of course they don't want to take responsibility for implying it, because the moment you do and you actually live and apply that, you're going to have to acknowledge that, oh, I was such an idiot before, I was a total nincompoop. We love that word nincompoop, by the way. It's a magical power word. I was just this nincompoop. I was in unawareness. But they don't do this because they feel I was idiot, I was bad, I was wrong. So they have this massive, awful truth association with past behavior, which inhibits them from changing to current behavior. So we just understand that, and we use perspective shifting, which is another potent thing. We perspective shift and context shift, which leads to perception shifting. I don't want to get into detail, but this is important. So we use those two to basically reframe where we at, so that you can now institute the replacement, and it's not this big painful onerous thing. It's not a big deal, but this is absolutely critically necessary. Otherwise, you're wasting your time. Yeah. So I'm
Yeah,
keen, Jocelyn. I want to hear,
I
in
totally agree.
terms of that question, still, to take a conception, a new understanding, a new belief. Again, we'll use impeccability as the example. How to get this association through your techniques. How do you associate that in the body physically?
So you want to know how I can
How you
base,
would? Yeah.
yeah, how I would connect those with what I'm teaching, what I'm doing.
Yeah, yeah. The techniques, your techniques, to reverse it. You know, you use the association of body to brain, but I'm saying, hey, I've got conceptions in my brain that I want to connect to the body. I want to just go the other way now.
But technically, what I'm doing is literally just increasing the quality of the frequency, which means if you know how to increase, if you
Okay.
know how to increase the quality of this, the
Yeah.
frequency, then basically whatever else you're doing in your life will have the same impact. And so
Yeah.
when you took the example of having the gift for Christmas and enhanced it, of
Yeah.
you used the word visualize a greater feeling reward by this small gift.
Right.
Basically,
Extrapolation. Right.
exactly. Basically, what I'm doing is the same as you. And actually, we can incorporate those two things very efficiency, very efficient. Because what I'm doing is I'm helping the brain to understand a greater signal and frequency. So basically, for the people that do the work with me or with you, they will have the sort of the same result, because once they're going to open the gift, the small gift they receive at Christmas, they will have a higher effect due to a greater frequency. So how do I implement what you said to my training? I hope that what I'm doing naturally lead to a better brain response and physical response to anything else around.
So if I were to recap on what you do, because I like to do that, and it's part of what we train to do, is to take a greater understanding and to condense it. We call it, to transform it into a fractal conception, fractalizing it. Yeah. So we pack it into that fractal conception, which again, it's like a seed. All you do is you give it to water it with a bit of attention, and boom, you can now get the entirety, the big picture out of just that root, right? But it's like a cabinet file in computing. It's self-unpacking file, right? All right, so this is very powerful. So each power term that we use is a fractal conception. It's a magical process. So if I were to take what you were saying, what you do is not necessarily the specifics of a brain signal, a body signal. No, you work on the deeper abstract level to enhance the body's ability to signalize, to connect, to transmit, right? So again, right.
Same as the example you said when you watch yourself in the mirror in the morning and you say, I'm a great person today, or I'm going to do something great. Right. With the help of what I'm doing, you will truly believe in that better. Actually, you will have a stronger belief into you're going to be a greater person today without saying, because you do have better quality conception of it.
Right. So would you say that what you do in an abstract way is to take the body's signal system and upgrade it, like from the old telephone wires, you are now putting in a fiber optic?
Absolutely, it's exactly what it is. The thing I'm doing is transforming an old computer with the same shape, but with a better hard drive.
Exactly. And not just a better hard drive, but a better bus, better RAM, better GPU, right?
Yeah, that's what it is.
Yeah, it's not just a hard drive. It is the ability for the signal to get from the hard drive to the CPU, right? In other words, again, right, that bus and the RAM. And also, if you really want to get into computing, you want to upgrade that old style hard drive to a SSU, solid state, more immediate, more direct, right?
I want to upgrade that because I'm not into computer at all, but I know the few things.
Okay.
I basically want someone to reach the same feeling of someone that drive a Ferrari, have crossed to the same feeling driving a Skoda Octavia. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
I want them to feel what you can feel at their level, but because the majority of the people driving the Skoda Octavia, they lost it already, even driving that type of car. So they are so far from driving the Ferrari. So once they get into the Ferrari, they're losing the real feeling. So that's what I'm doing. It's very hard for me because not my mother tongue, so it's quite tricky for me to explain.
Oh, I love it. It's you are fantastic. You are most articulate, and you elucidate really well too. Two terms we like very much: elucidation and articulation. Beena, Google that car, right? It's a very particular car, and if you're not familiar with what he's talking about, it's a very famous car, right?
Okay, repeat.
Skoda is the only brand Czech people have. They have Skoda and beer. That's it.
Right. It was the joke for just Google, classic Czechoslovakian car, Skoda, Skuda. It was the joke all the time for the worst possible car that exists, right?
Exactly. Back in the time, yes, it was.
Back in the day, yes. It was just an awful thing. But it's all they had, So, all right. That's why I was laughing. So it was a great example. I mean, you want to go for the opposite of a Ferrari, there you go. It's a Skoda,
How can you feel what it is to drive? How can you imagine the feeling of driving a Ferrari? You don't even know. If you don't even know the basic of driving a car. And this is the same with all these trainers, gurus online that you see lately, especially lately with the COVID. They are bringing you to the outcome, which is definitely unreachable because you don't even know who you are and how do you feel right now.
Exactly.
Without that understanding, you can't imagine yourself being fully overcoming fully anxiety.
Exactly. Exactly.
don't know.
So that's why we focus on replacement and not in terms of symptom management or fixing the negative. Because if you truly, just from a pure mathematical point of view, if you eliminate the negative, right, you got -2. Okay, you add +2, you eliminate the negative, you just end up with 0.
Yeah, exactly.
That's it.
Yeah.
And this is classic traditional psychology, psychoanalysis, psychotherapy. All of it is just problem management. That's it. They eliminate the problem. But also, even worse, and again, you end up with 0, but even worse, when we talked earlier about attention management, right? Attention emphasis, literally emphasis rewires the brain. When you emphasize something, it enlarges the node in the brain. Literally, you actually it grows right there with emphasis. And when that node enlarges, talk about your connections. With that enlarged node, it now has more connections. It spreads its connections further and wider, right?
Absolutely.
And then more connections. This is why everybody remembers where they were on 9/11, or when the volcano erupted or something really potent happened, because of that emphasis. So we need
Absolutely.
to become masters at emphasis management. This is exactly the issue. But we want to now say, when it comes to just shrinking the node through de-emphasis and therapy, right? This is no good, because here's the deal. Our attention is focused on the problem. So we are emphasizing problem. So the patient starts to live in a world of their problems. That's all the brain is thinking about. Problem, 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 problem. So that you go from actually making the problem, having a small problem, you become worse, because you start living in a world of problem. That's why people end up in psychoanalysis for decades. It's fascinating. We have so many people that come to us, and it's they've been in therapy, and they leave it after a couple of weeks. Oh, okay, thank you, because they have found replacement. It's so
Yeah.
simple but so powerful. Unbelievable, unbelievable. And again, it's understanding the brain and emphasis. So we rewire it, focus on that replacement, particularly when it's not a replacement, which is, I'm not teaching you and saying, I don't like this word teacher. If somebody says that, I say, nope, 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 sorry. I do not teach, absolutely not. I share, I maybe facilitate, make the obvious obvious, but no teaching. I connect you to what you feel is important. Your replacement, what is magical to you, what's important to you, meaningful to you, significant to you, according to you, not according to me, according to you. This is your innate awesome and magic and moreness that we are just emphasizing by paying attention to it. By that replacement, now we start focusing on the replacement. The whole brain starts to rewire with an entirely new way of thinking, way of being, way of feeling, way of living, way of
Mhm.
understanding, right? In other words, we call it the way of impeccability, because at root, everyone wants to be impeccable. They want to be right. They want to live in harmony and in accordance with their conscience, which is another one of the definitions of impeccability. It's not about being right all the time. It's about doing what is right according to you. That's it.
Absolutely.
So whatever I do, I said, I've done everything I can do. My conscience is clear. I can sign off on it, and I can do. If it turns out to be wrong, okay, sorry, I did what the best I could. I didn't mean it to happen. I did everything I could to prevent this, but okay, if it happens, it happens. So what? That's it. I'm at peace, in other words, with my decisions. So right there, we eliminate stress and anxiety and fear and all of that stuff. We have a way to live with the fact that we are inherently not perfect. We don't know everything. We're going to make mistakes, but we found a mechanism to deal with this. So we have an entire replacement psychology and understanding that goes innately according to your own moreness. And this is
Mm.
transformative. This is transformative. So we
All right.
come at the whole problem from the entire other end. The details will take care of themselves. Have your own innate root system, your operating system. Have this together. Have the problems of your operating sorted out. Then you can load the software programs all you like. But if your operating system's flawed, you're never going to be able to really truly utilize the individual software systems like Qigong or whatever it is to deal with
Absolutely.
specific things. You need the operating system to be really fluid, intact, and have integrity, which is another big power term for us. Very key, very key. So again, the deeper sensibility of what we're doing is approaching everything from the bottom up, from the roots up. And that's it. Get your roots sorted, and then you'll have a healthy tree automatically. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It's
That's
fascinating.
that's pretty much what I'm trying to do. It's literally,
Yeah,
as you told,
yeah,
is literally to reconnect from the roots. And in that case, literally those exercises can bring you back to who you really are. And this is why people have this tendency to sometimes cry or have this sweating or have this very specific feelings when the training, when they do those type of things, is because it brings you back to some movement feelings that you probably forget due to this blur that you have in front of your eyes because of panic attack and anxiety. So it's really something interesting that we have a lot of in common. Surprisingly, you're doing something very.
Oh, absolutely. Most things I find there's a commonality. It's just because what we do, we go to the abstract overview understanding, overview perspective. It is a massive power term for us. We use it all the time. When you connect things from that conception, you don't end up missing the boat because you just focused on a particular thing that I'm doing now. Overview perspective, I'm dealing with the entirety of my life. I'm dealing with the issue of death. I'm dealing with the issue of my spirituality. I'm dealing with the issue of my impeccability, with my conscience, with my deep feeling of moreness. I'm dealing with all the big issues. Deal with the big issues and the little issues become irrelevant. Focus on the little issues and you may never, ever end up actually dealing with the big issues.
It's a waste of time if you only focus on the little issues. So it's a big point. So yeah, I'm very keen always.
Why I'm excited about what you were saying is I'm always keen to connect to methodologies that are physical mechanisms for the implementation of your bigger picture abstract, right? So you can application techniques, in other words, because again, like I said, without application, it's all meaningless. So we have, we call it the A+ philosophy. At least this is what the whole thing is based on. And the root of the A+ philosophy is the power conception of appropriateness. Right, that's it. Everything follows from being appropriate. You gotta understand appropriateness, not proper, but appropriateness itself, which is when you take your motivation and you take context and you say, okay, what I want to do, what's the context? There you go. Appropriateness becomes connecting those two. It's just a matter of awareness, and that's the other key. So you got appropriateness, awareness, and then attunement, which gets you more. You have to be in attune with your environment. If not, well, you're going to walk off cliffs and, go out in bad weather, fall through the ice, things like this. So those three are the core of this A+ philosophy because they all start with A. But then you got to take all of those and funnel it into application. Because without application, you can understand all you like. It's all meaningless. So I love techniques and mechanisms of application. Because when you do all of this, and then you have some way, because we have in the program, and there is actually some connectivity to Qigong in the program, but I like to be a bit more specific and detailed also.
No, it's really interesting because I was in contact with many people in general, people, and you are really literally going in depth into taking a little bit more like even abstract. I know abstract tend to scare people, but in reality, if you have to take a little bit like more objective, you have behind you the picture of Everest. In case you didn't know, that's Everest right behind you.
Yes.
And Mount Everest is really the thing. You have to just look up and look from the top in order to realize what's really happening.
Yes.
So I really agree with you. I really resonate. Yes. This is what I'm trying to do.
Yeah. Because I look so many at programs and things that people do. They just treat one part of the deal and they don't treat the entire system. And you're wasting your time. The rest is just going to come back and corrupt it after time. That's it, It's like it
can sometimes be part of the way. So for example, what I'm doing, I know I'm not going as deep as you're going obviously in your program because it's completely different. But what you're doing with what I'm doing, helping the people to have both conception of at the same time getting out and see from the top, but also getting from inside by the feelings, by the same as the kid that touched the plate, which is hot. So they have this reward. And I think this is something that could potentially really work together like big time.
Again, when we get to that point where we truly understand why it's so much more potent. A fantastic example I like to use is riding a bicycle. You see most people who teach a kid to ride a bicycle, they're concerned with balance. They go, oh, and this is what they're teaching the kid to balance on the bicycle, which is terrible. It's not how to ride a bicycle. It's got riding a bicycle nothing to do with balance. If you understand, as soon as you go fast enough, the wheel balances itself. It's about getting to that minimum speed where the bicycle balances itself. If you teach the kid this, well, life is easy, right? I mean, if you really want to actually demonstrate it, go on YouTube and look at the gyroscopic effect. You can see where they spin the wheel and it balance. That's it. So when you really understand this, teach the kid it's about having the minimum speed, the bicycle. They don't have to know why, but if you demonstrate this, and you can show them yourself, you sit on the bicycle, look, I'm going slowly. I can't balance on the bicycle, but look, once I go, I can drive, and it's very easy. That's it. Understanding leads to application.
Absolutely.
If you really, really understand, you get application. Riding a bicycle is fantastic.
Absolutely.
Furthermore, look at online instructions for riding a bicycle and read the instructions to your kid and see what happens. You've got to apply it and do it. You can read the instructions all you like, but you need to physically get on and pedal and get that speed up and then feel how it balances. Until the body feels it, it means nothing, right?
It means
It's
nothing.
an intellectual understanding.
Yes, it's just in your mind. It's just in your mind.
Exactly. And that's what I was saying earlier about memory knowing and intellectual understanding as opposed to physical understanding. We need to have all of them, both, not just one or the other. But it's so easy for us to be fooled by memory and intellectual knowledge. It is so easy to get fooled because, but I do understand it. I did get it. Yes, I did. Yeah, but your body didn't. I understood the instructions to ride the bicycle perfectly, and I believe I can ride the bicycle. Yeah, maybe we'll have to see when you get on the bicycle.
Exactly.
Right? That's the self-proof. We need that final step to say, now that's that last step. You own it. Yes, I own the instructions, but that self-proof is when I actually do it. The body is very smart. There's inner bureaucrats say, yeah, right, okay, we've seen this before plenty of times. You thought you knew, but then when push came to shove, it all crapped out because you didn't actually have that self-proof. So you got to go that last step. Very important. Very, very, very important. Very magical.
Very interesting. Very interesting. I'm really happy to make
yeah. That's why I reach out, I reach out. I gotta say something very important. Both you, Liga, and you, Jocelyn, you've come and chatted with us on Zoom. I reach out to many people and okay, but and I never see them, and it's really sad, it's a waste. Yeah. So application. You actually did that. Very, very happy. It makes me very, very, very happy. I want to ask one more question in terms of your the qigong and the application and the sharing of it. What do you do precisely? What's involved? How long? Do you have a program? You said you're moving on to online. What's involved?
I do have a program that I've been training for. I've been applying for people for 10 years, and I'm going to first tell you exactly why I'm trying to do that and why I'm coming up with people that have the best. Because let's be clear. I've been training 200 plus people for doing qigong, for well balance, for self-esteem, for self-confidence. Some other people that because they wanted to have a better posture, it was very much physical. But the feedbacks I received the most by all of those people were very much the boost of self-confidence and the overcoming of the fear they had. And so over the time, especially me, I was very much having panic attack to a point that I remember the day I wanted to change was in 2005, and I get into a plane on boarding. And once I get into the aircraft, it was actually on the airport, I turned back and I said to the steward that I'm sorry, I won't make it. I just can't. And I may lose like 30 minutes of the because they have to remove my luggage and stuff. And I couldn't do it because I was panicking by agoraphobic effect.
Wow.
Yeah, it was to that point. So but I've met people that went way worse than that. So I'm saying like you have to always understand. But yeah, it went to that point. So I overcome it myself, and I've been training people doing qigong and martial arts. And at the end of the day, I realized by combining what I learned in China, which is proper breathing method, with that physical things, people with anxiety like me tend to have very good results. And so how do I try to incorporate that training? I'm trying to get it into some groups of people that have the same feeling like me by doing some exercise that you can do 10 minutes in the morning routine, and let them also feeling what I have, with the feeling that I previously experienced. but it's very new for me online. I'm the one that love to have physical contact, to go in the park and talk to people. So it's very, very new.
Very
But
cool. Very cool. Very, very cool. Very cool. And you, Liga, what is it that you do apply, and how do you communicate and share what you do?
Well, I am a qualified counselor, so I'm kind of and also at the moment I'm a mom, so I'm kind of trying to unite
what a
tasks
word.
and let's say it's very difficult. However, I am someone who is very much into self-awareness and self-knowledge and self-understanding. And in a way, although yes, I've studied classical humanistic counseling, I tend to really look into, I love to connect to, maybe it's more a spiritual side of ourselves, but it's not just that, because I believe we are whole. Everything is there for a reason, the body, the mind, emotions.
A good reason. Everything is there not just for a reason, but for a good reason. Very big difference in the psychology.
For an experience that we want to have, and only I only believe that sometimes our consciousness, the physical consciousness, it's just not, it hasn't caught up with what's the bigger picture. And of course, in a way, I think in this lifetime or in this form that we have, we might never catch up with the whole picture. But I do know that I feel this pull towards seeking knowledge, seeking understanding, and I believe many more people have the same. So what I do is, at the moment, I'm not really seeing people because I don't have any physical time to do that. At the moment, I just prepare a couple of videos on YouTube every month on self-awareness exercises, on how to connect to yourself. Because I think for me, self-awareness is the basis. That's the core. That's the root. And if you connect to that root, that's where the tree changes. And I think our body, our physical life, that's the tree. So I do like to, when I work with people, I do like to look at those connections or disconnections, maybe disconnections between the mind, emotion, body, spirit. So that's kind of what I do.
Cool.
But I'm still very much in process, and I know that I started out as a counselor, but I feel that with me changing, the things I do change as well. So it's all in motion.
And that's what we do. We connected, the program when it was set up originally. The intent of the program is to provide something that will enhance what counselors, therapists, coaches, and CEOs do. It's also in the business. Anybody who's in a leadership position, because if you're doing counseling or therapy, or you have a program, and like Jocelyn, yours as well, right? You're in a leadership position. And when you're in a leadership position, there's much that's involved. Parenting, same thing. Parenting, leadership, same deal. So it's about communication, about understanding, and if you look at, in the group, in the description, we have that nice mnemonic there: awareness, discernment, and understanding. ADU, because it adds to you and the universe. We like those mnemonics. We have fun with them. But ADU is really key, because awareness is the start. But it's absolutely essential to have that ability to discern, because then you can connect that awareness with the understanding. Without the discernment, it gets a little bit lost. Now, the way it adds to you, the add is the application. It all got to translate into application. So when we see the grander structure and we have specific techniques that will enable us to do this, I didn't even talk about all of them yet. One is the self-conception. This is an unbelievably profoundly huge technique that we can use to leverage change without telling somebody how to change. Right. So we have a separate program, which is it's basically it's called Hearing and Helping, but the subtitle would be one of them could be Wisdomless Coaching. Right. So that whole program, very, very intense, big deal, but very sophisticated, because it enables you to learn all the techniques of how you can assist somebody and really provide real help without telling them to do one single thing, without even having any knowledge and awareness of what their problem is at all. In other words, I can help a rocket scientist in what they do, without knowing anything at all about rocket science, because I understand the mechanisms of thinking, of feeling, of processing, of getting to the root. In other words, the mechanisms of awareness, discernment, and understanding, and application. So it's a big deal. And it's really nice that you can do this stuff, can enhance what you do by a deeper, in-depth understanding of the overall, the overview perspective, the underlying structures for learning, for implementation. That's really what we do. It's pretty cool. It's pretty fun. That's why I ask, because I always like to learn what you do specifically in your techniques, you know, that get to it. Because when you start adding all of those, they become, you know, a subset of the bigger set, which is what we deal with, those big overview abstract conceptualities. You know, we incorporate all of these as much as we are. You know, typically they're already there in some way or another, but hey, we're always open for learning. Always, always, always.
I have to upset you a little bit when you ask about techniques, because I don't have techniques. Like, not anything specific that I repeat or do.
Yes.
I kind of, when I have, let's say, I don't even want to call it a problem, but when there is the situation in front of me, and when I start to connect with it, the techniques, if you want to say that, they just come up. They form themselves in the process.
Yes.
There's
Now,
nothing
in that course
very
that I spoke
general
about,
thing which I could, which everyone can find on internet. Like, I find journaling is an amazing tool for getting to know yourself and your thoughts and your mind process. But there's nothing really that specific which I would say, apply this and you'll be sorted.
So we would call that, again, we take this and we have the sophistication here because we really utilize the incredible power of language. So we understand this. So when we talk about hearing, capital H, hearing is a whole philosophy. And one of the mechanisms that underlie this entire conception of philosophy, this hearing, is one, you are making space. You are listening beyond what people say. You are listening to what they don't say. You are listening to intent, and so on. It's a lot to it. But one of the things that happens is, in this process, first, we want to shift you. This is particularly a coaching or a therapy course to really learn how to do this without having specific content. So the end result is we start with, first of all, we get you into your default mode is to shift out of talking and sharing, and particularly telling. Oh my God, telling is a big horror. If you are going to do something, you just share. But we don't even get to that in the beginning. We just said, hey, no telling anybody anything. Just bloody well listen. Just shut up. And like Beena said it very nicely, shut your mouth, darling. That's it. Make this your default. Be open to be receptive. Get somebody to where they feel heard. Not just where they are heard, but where they feel heard. People know they're being heard, but they need to feel it, right? So there you get to where they feel heard. Now you get to a situation where maybe you see somebody is in a spot where, yes, they've thought it through, they've worked, they share, but they're not putting it together, they're not connecting. Now, in this process, because you've unhooked your telling mechanism, you've unhooked that part of your brain where you're sitting there like most coaches. They're not listening to what the client is saying. They're listening to what they're going to be saying in the next moment and opportunity that they get. So they're not really actually listening. When you shift this mechanism, you unhook from this, you get to a situation where you can trust your own innate sense of appropriateness. When you really hearing somebody, you in that overview perspective, stuff is coming at you. Your innate sense of appropriateness is going to put two and two together, make the obvious obvious. And what needs to come out will just automatically come out. And you will be astonished at your own genius. It's like, where the hell did that come from? Right? For me, and when we do the sessions, ask Beena, we don't have anything pre-planned. We don't have any agenda. Stuff just comes. I always say, you pull it out of me. I don't have this prearranged as a speech. No, you pull it out of me because my earnestness connects to what you want to accomplish. And this triggers me and pulls stuff. So this is part of what we do, is to get you to that state where things get pulled out of you and you can intuitively, or rather, we rather than intuitively, we say innately, directly be able to respond to the moreness appropriateness of the circumstance, not to your agendas, your ideas, those we've set aside, because hearing is not just a technique or a mechanism, it's also a spiritual philosophy. It's a way of being. It's very, very spiritual. The more you learn to hear and truly, truly hear, not just others, but of course yourself, and you also learn to hear the world, you learn to hear the universe. Now this is a spiritual endeavor. Yeah.
Exactly. Just to make it more clear that we regularly have 2-hour session with one participant on Zoom sessions. And daily we have
Two, not
sessions
one.
2 hour with one participant. And it seems like that, okay, we have to have some sort of content already decided, but never, never. We do that whole Zoom sessions, and the stuff is always, as you already experienced with Sil, that you will just ask questions and you will get like tons and tons and tons of information and knowledge and sharing. So this is something really magical with this whole Way of Impeccability and Moreness project, because this is not the course for everyone. These programs are not for everyone. These are programs for people who are already have this Moreness inside them, because this is the whole concept. People who are coaches. And Jocelyn, as you were sharing, what I was hearing from your all sharing about your program, just correct me if I'm not getting it right, that this whole mechanism, this whole course, this whole what your system is to enhance receptivity to leverage sharing within your body and with others.
To leverage sharing or to leverage connectivity?
No,
Yeah.
to sharing. I just said that to sharing because
automatically, if you increase the connectivity, as this guy on my right said, automatically you increase the sharing. Logically.
Exactly. Yes. Exactly. Exactly. This is what we're about. But that's what I was excited about. What you said. Yeah.
High quality if I'm not receptive to what he's saying, then if I can adapt to have a better reception and he can adapt to have a better signal to me, then we'll have a better communication together. So that's what I'm doing.
Exactly. I mean, you might as well be the IT guy who comes and upgrades your internet, right? They put in fiber optic and they increase the receptivity, the protocols to feed it back and forth, all this stuff. So so receptivity enhances connectivity. That's why receptivity. Boy, if you ask Beena to elaborate on this power conception of receptivity, you're going to be here for another half an hour or an hour.
No. I got to go actually after that. But Beena, that's the difference. You are talking about something. I'm going way more into the roots of the problem, which is before you talk about sharing a message, you need to make sure the message is fully getting out of you the proper way that they can be received the best way possible. And that's my work. My work is to make sure that someone that have a poor signal due to the fear or whatever the panic or the fear he may struggle with, transform that signal to have a higher quality and better understanding. And so automatically you can share something better. So you're one step ahead of me. Basically, I'm more into the roots of the cause, which is treating before sharing, you need to have a proper signal getting out of you.
So yes, the foundation is receptivity. And same with Liga, what you were saying that about that, okay, you don't have any specific things about that, but you are sharing. You are actually, what you are doing with your videos, you are sharing your journey, if I'm correct.
Yes, I think the only true knowledge I can have is the one I have embodied or lived, and also it is not the absolute truth. This is only my personal truth, but what I'm kind of, I feel what I am possibly good at is more of a inspiring people that to believe that they can change things they don't like. And you know, there's the saying, I don't remember it exactly, but it's about the fishing rod, and it's like, if you give a man a fish, he will be eaten for a day. If you teach him how to fish, or show him how to fish, I guess even that is not correct when I kind of think of that. But if you inspire him to fish, let's say like that, he'll be able to feed him for life. So
exactly. Exactly.
For sharing.
Facilitate his understanding of the conception of fishing, which is self-reliance, self-enablement, right? We,
Yes.
Yeah,
we
to
go really to
understand
the end of it.
why they could benefit or why it would be useful or even not useful. Because I think to get to that point, when a person can say yes or no, but say it from their being, their truth,
Yes,
that's
yes,
it.
yes,
Because
yes,
we're not
exactly,
into let's all
exactly.
agree business, right?
No, not at all. Exactly. This is what we do and what makes what we do so transformative and so powerful. And people are like, so wow. I mean, you'll hear some of the participants. Hopefully, Donna comes on soon. Beena, will you message her again, please? I did, but please, I want you to meet Donna. Donna also facilitates, but she also has done the program, obviously. But when you get to this point that I'm connecting to my truth, this is transformative. This is
Exactly.
transformative. You're living
Exactly.
your own life. It's real, and we use this. We are just here to get you to connect to real you according to you, not according to me. Please don't believe anything I say. Never, never, never believe what I say. Go and check it out, test it, think it through to the end. Please do not believe me. Different way of doing it, different way of doing it. Yeah, if I notice a participant just kind of blindly accepting something that I say, I try never to share opinions, but I if I notice it, I'll say, whoa, 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 what's this based
Mhm.
on? You believing it? I believe it, but what makes you believe it? They'll have to substantiate and validate why they are believing it. They're gonna have to think it through. Nah, don't take my word for it. Never, ever. It's a very bad habit. We tend to take
Yeah,
people's words for
it's
it.
bad habit. I agree with you. I agree
Yeah.
with you.
So the way the program works, really, it's not because of the content. Yes. Okay. So just to go a little bit on this to elaborate a bit, and the only thing I can do is use the example of what we do. So we have online content. You access this, and we come onto Zoom and we discuss it, right? But here's the magic. It's not the content, it's the process. First of all, what you're required to do as a participant is to give it a repeat back of the content. And usually we do this slide by side. We have it set up in slide form, not in video form. Because again, there's a deeper psychology there. So you need to do a repeat back of what was said. This demonstrates your ability to comprehend. Now, we're not testing your comprehension, but we're giving you an opportunity to check your own understanding. How do you know you've understood it if you haven't checked it, right? So it's a tool. But that's just the surface. The deeper magic of that is that we are providing opportunity for you to practice expression, to practice expression of complex conceptionalities. And also, when you're doing a repeat back, it usually gets merged with your own understanding, your own connectivity, which is the very next process. The very next thing that you are required to do is, okay, you share your repeat back and you're practicing expression. The very next thing is the takeaway. Again, power conception, takeaway, one word, capital T, capital A. Okay, what is your takeaway? It is what is meaningful and important to you, what you are going to take away and use and apply. You share this. Furthermore, in the takeaway is exactly what you were saying earlier, Liga. Part of the takeaway is to pay attention to what comes up in you, no matter how seemingly unrelated and unconnected. So you share this too. And we really, really, really make a big point of emphasizing the power and the importance of making a note and writing down and sharing what has come up in you. Doesn't matter if it seems unconnected. It's kind of like that stuff that comes up. It's like a dream sometimes. If you don't immediately write it down, it goes away, just like the dream. So that gets shared too. Again, what happens in the underlying process? The participant is practicing communication, sharing, articulation, understanding. They are practicing thinking it through. All of this is that's the underlying process that really makes it work. But then we get sophisticated on this. Now you've done your notes, you've done your understanding, you've shared your takeaways, you've shared how you connected to this, your unravelment, the whole process you've gone through. And sometimes just on one concept, we can go for days, sometimes even weeks, right? Now what we do is all that understanding, we say, okay, what are the entries in the dictionary of power? Take all of that and put a capstone on it. Condense it, fractalize it into conceptions that you can use in your everyday language. So yesterday we had a massive like this. Everybody came and joined and we talked just on one word, permission. Right? One of the participants said, oh, it was part of a task. He's working on dictionary of power. Said, oh, permission has come up for me. and I'm not sure if this is appropriate or not. So we had a big discussion in permission, what exactly it means, allowance, enablement, license, etc. Now she has, for her, permission has become from little p permission. It's now for her capital P permission. It means so much more. It's got all that depth of understanding, how it's leveraged her and enabled her. And that's the process. Then we go even one more. Each session has specific tasks and exercises. And those tasks and exercises are not memory tests, not to say, okay, did you remember what is in this? We couldn't get two hoots whether you remember it or not. They are specifically geared as a task and an exercise, which if you do it, it basically forces you to apply and share from your own innerness what's going on. And when you do that, the brain changes, right? You can ask somebody to repeat what you said, doesn't mean they've learned. Ask them to demonstrate the learning to you. Now the brain starts rewiring and refiguring. And now you get that real ownership of it, because now it's me saying how I do this, right? Very cool. So we use an underlying process that we don't always articulate and share, but it's transformative in just the doing. So you don't feel like you're working at something. You don't have to do memory and all the stuff. No, it just happens automatically. Very sneaky in that way, because why not? And we have fun, of course, like this. The sessions are very much like this. We have a blast. So why make learning onerous? It doesn't need to be, and it's very ineffectual in any case. When you make it fun and joyful and profound and sublime, it's easy. It's easy.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Sorry.
All right.
Very cool.
Guys, I will need to. It's 1 o'clock, and I have a meeting.
Jocelyn, I want to ask you one thing. How long does your program take?
It depends.
To share this.
So usually it's about 3 months to have a fully
3 months.
Okay. To fully experience a complete transformation from point A to point B. It takes 12 weeks. Yeah.
Okay. I am interested. So talk to me. We can maybe do a trade.
Yeah, please. No worries. My pleasure.
Okay.
My pleasure.
Before you go, you got to meet Donna. So don't go anywhere, because here comes magical Donna, and Donna's very magical. So I just want you to say hello to Donna. Donna, I want you to meet Jocelyn, if I'm saying it correctly, yes?
Yeah. Right.
Jocelyn and Liga, I'm saying that correctly too, right, Liga?
Yes.
Yeah. Brilliant. We've had a fantastic, most excellent conversation, Donna. Jocelyn teaches Qigong, and Liga is a counselor. Not that she's doing it now, but because she's a parent also. But anyway, just and everything, way of impeccability, what they do, the whole typical conversations. And now I was connecting it to our discussion yesterday with permission, not permission specifically, but just in terms of what we do generally, in terms of focusing on something and getting into it into its depths. So I want to ask, before they go really quickly, Donna, if you did a recap now. I know I asked you this yesterday a couple of times, but what were we doing yesterday? Can I ask you on that? Can you share? I'll put you on the spot a bit. Donna?
That's fine. It's not on the spot.
Cool.
What we did yesterday, as far as permission and allowing, for me, I felt as though there was a slight nuance between the two, and just in general, with allowing in situations or in life, having an openness and an open heart to the flow of life, and for permission, it is a little bit, it feels a little different for me in that the permission feels a little more external, where the allowing your life to flow and having the natural flow of life is more internal. And we were talking about being deliberately focused, and with a deliberate focus and a combination of the allowing, it provides an opportunity for life to take a natural course and for you to be open, which in and of itself kind of allows for an expanded awareness. So
there you go. And that's why I wanted to ask Donna to share this, because what Donna just said ties into exactly what we've been talking about, receptivity, right? opening those lines of connectivity so that we can be more receptive. Yeah, that's what you do with the qigong, right? You
Exactly. That's
enhance
exactly.
receptivity through
Exactly.
cleaning, enhancing the lines of communication inside the body. Very cool.
Absolutely. What I'm
Very
doing
exciting.
literally is exactly that. I'm actually helping people to increase that quality. It could increase that quality of receptors, and then obviously, if you increase that quality, you increase the understanding of information they get from the outside, and automatically you give back information with a better quality. So exactly what I'm doing. Yeah, that's what I'm helping people for.
Yes.
You have a deliberate focus in doing what we were just talking about. You have a deliberate mechanism to do that. I don't know a lot about that. I just know a little. I've been introduced to it, and I find it fascinating. I want to learn more.
Want to do more? Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
If you have any question, by the way, all
Exciting
of you,
stuff.
just send me a message. I'll be more than happy to tell you how it works. But it's a great
Thank you.
opportunity for me, and it's a great opportunity for me to share that, because I think as our host today told, there's many things that people missing, and it's right in front of the nose sometimes. So yeah. So thank you for that. Thank you.
Yeah. So just a little bit overview. Oh, go ahead, Beena. Go ahead.
I was just saying that thank you for sharing, Jocelyn, and thank you for sharing Liga, because before you guys,
Thank you for hosting this.
Yeah. Thank you for hosting us.
Oh,
no,
it's a pleasure. You. That's what I wanted to jump in here. Go ahead, Beena. Sorry.
I was just saying
Too
that
excited.
it's supposed to be a casual conversation, but it comes out almost like a masterclass. It's really amazing.
It's never casual with us. We always get very excited. We love learning and growing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Just,
we all pretty much the same here. The only difference
Yeah.
is the weather outside in Scotland, which is bad, and
Right.
here in Prague, and you guys are in Karachi or in US, which is different weather.
Yeah.
But that's it.
Yeah. So, well, and I'm in Nobilia as well. That's a long story, but anyway, I'll explain another time. It's a very long story. I just wanted to say real quick, going forward, what I want to do is, in the group, is start a private group, and to do this kind of just go Facebook Live with our chat now. So that's it.
Yeah.
Just what we're doing, share with the group. And just do this, because whenever we have people come on, and this is what happens for us, we always get into it like this. And again, it's the first one. So the first one always it's but wild and rough. But as we get to know more, we can get more focused, more tight, to deal with more specific things. It's really fun. But and also make it a real value group, and to provide value in this way to the group. So maybe even make it a subscription group.
I believe into value. The problem is there is very much a lot of charlatans around, if you know that word.
Oh, exactly. Yeah, we're not into that. Yeah,
the lack of not just the value, the lack of information, the lack of knowledge is unbelievable.
The lack of personal integrity.
Absolutely.
No personal integrity, and it's all about the ego and promoting what they know. And I'll forget that.
Exactly. So it's hard to find groups where people are really literally sharing proper knowledge.
Right. So the private group will definitely focus it. Yes, we'll do a lot of this and share, but it will definitely be coming from the way of impeccability point of view, to share what we have related to whatever is going on. Because we do have this underlyingness that we have something that you can offer, and it's not content but understanding. It's mechanism, it's technique. So, and this is it again. We take our integrity and ethics very seriously. Ethically, I can't share what I believe is good for you. The only thing ethically I can truly share is what enhances your ability to choose. That I'm free to share. If I'm sharing something that enhances your ability to choose, I'm not limiting your awareness. I'm not restricting it. I'm enabling it to grow, which to me is what is being in alignment with the entire purpose and point of the whole universe. It's all about development and enhancement of awareness. So this I can ethically do. Anything that enhances choice, this I'm free to share. The rest I've got to be very careful with, because now I could be influencing you to limit yourself. This is very dangerous. So yeah, we're very potent on that. A big deal for us.
Yeah.
big issue. Big issue.
Thank you so much. And
pleasure. Thank you for coming. Like I said, I make those invitations, and sadly people don't take us up on it. So it's not a one-time thing. You know, if ever you want to come and chat, we don't, you know, we have obviously appointments and schedules. Just message me if I can. Okay. If not, I'll just say, come on, you know, it's not a problem. Not a problem. So
Thank
you
you.
really are free and welcome anytime.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Donna.
Pleasure, Jocelyn.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Yes.
Have a
Bye-bye,
great
Liga.
day. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye. Bye-bye. Bye-bye. Again, Liga, you don't have to go. You know, I know
I have
Jocelyn
to.
said you have to go.
I have to, unfortunately. I have some needy little person who needs me.
Yes. Yeah. What is your son's name, by the way?
Oh, and it's a girl.
Oh, it is a girl. Sorry, I thought you said son earlier. It's a girl. What's her name then?
Greta.
Greta. Brilliant.
Yeah, so
Brilliant.
I have to say
Very
that
cool. Very cool.
parenting is the biggest lesson of self-awareness I've had so far.
Yes.
And the most
yes.
uncomfortable.
Yes, we have fun with this because we have two other participants, a couple, and they actually come on separately. And one of when we said clarity of intent, one of the things that they were very keen on was leadership, right? To get, they want, it's an important deal in their life to be in leadership, to be able to be leaders, etc. So we used Wave Impeccability because it was originally geared towards, or still is, you know, it's one of its focuses, but also in coaching. But, you know, anyway, so what we do is, in order to leverage the understanding of leadership from a way of impeccability, using the tools to get to financial leadership, all we do is we just take that appropriateness and we leveraged parenting, because they also have three young children. So it was parenting and leadership, basically the same thing. Parenting, leadership, coaching, all the same thing when you really look at the abstract of it. So it's very powerful. It's very useful to connect that leadership and parenting together as magic. And of course, then self-improvement, self-enhancement.
Yeah, it's all one. So at the end of the day, it's all
exactly.
all one.
Exactly.
So
it's all one.
That's why it's always interesting to learn. Okay, thank you. I do have to run at the moment.
Okay, no
But it was a
problem. Liga,
pleasure,
I
and
do want to get back to still doing our Facebook Live and talking about living with the force.
Yeah, that would be great. I'm open to that. As I said, I only need to plan it in advance because
Sure.
my life at the moment, time-wise, is really dependent on my daughter. So
no problem. I mean, I really do understand with the parenting. It's not a problem. Yeah, we'll get there. I got lots of patience.
It's a great idea. I do love it, and I would be happy to participate.
Brilliant. Yeah, because we're getting detail on it. All right.
Okay.
Thank you for coming. Magic.
Bye.
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 Brilliant. Let me just end that.